Brambley. I'm an assistant strength coach here at Princeton University, and today we're going to talk about the technique on back squat. Okay, so before we even start squatting, we do a general warm-up for our lower body. So what I would have my athlete do is if they were just to do a back squat or any squatting movement, I would start having them do body weight squats. So he would still put his feet in a squatting position, his chest would be upright. I would actually have him put his hands out straight ahead of him, because that will actually keep his chest up. If he drops his hands, he knows that he's dropping his chest, and you want to keep his chest up. So I have him do 5 body weight squats. Really, that's just to get the technique and the full range of motion of squatting. Right? He's warming up his quads and his hamstrings, his glutes. Then I would have him do about 5 each leg on a forward lunge. Right? He would still keep his hands off his chest, off his knees. You can put them on his hips or above his head. And you just do 5 each leg on a forward lunge with his back leg touching the floor, just upright. Again, this is going to work his quadriceps, his hamstrings, and his adductors, his glutes, his abductors also. Just warming up his lower body as he does the movement. You can also turn that into a side lunge and do 5 each leg on a side lunge. I like to have the athlete have his arms out in front when he does a side lunge, because again, that keeps his chest up when he's doing the movement. When you do any sort of squatting movement, you want to keep your chest up first. You want to have your chest up first. A couple of movement, while doing the squat, a couple of things that people actually will do wrong when they actually do a squat. Number one is they don't utilize their hips enough. So as they're doing a squatting movement, they actually turn their knees in to stand up, and they want it. And when they do that, it's actually quad dominance that causes them to do that, and less hip. So as the athlete steps back, he goes down, and then he tilts his knees in so he can be more quad dominant. You actually don't want that to happen. So again, as he goes down, you don't want the knees to come in as you stand up, right? What he wants to do is, as he sits back and down, he actually wants to push his knees out. As you push your knees out, that utilizes more glute and hip area. And that's actually, as an athlete, what we're working on. We want more glute and hip area and hamstrings, and we want him to actually push his knees out as he stands up. If an athlete has a problem, one more time, I would actually tell him to pick up his big toe. I mean, you can really only see it through his shoe, but he would pick up his big toe and stand up. That will keep him from internally rotating his feet or collapsing his arch, and then I don't want his knees to follow, so it'll prevent the actual collapsing of the arch and the knees following. Another movement that an athlete might do, mistake that they might make when they are doing this, is they might pick their heels up off the ground. So as he steps back, he's getting in a squatting stance, he sits down, but his heels come up off the ground and his weight is forward. Again, that's another sign that he's trying to use his quads to stand up, or again, I want him to use his hips. So what I'll say is you're always pushing through the heel as he stands up. The weight is at the heel of your foot. As he pushes through, pushes his knees out, his weight's through his heel, and he stands up. So again, you don't want the heels to come up off the floor. You want the heels to stay flat on the floor as you're pushing straight up. You want your weight to push straight up, and you don't want to be on the balls of your feet. So I'm going to have my athlete come in. And when you first start a back squat, bar position and foot position are very important. As a warm-up to a back squat, I would just have him do, say, 2 sets of 5 with just the light bar or the bar itself to warm up. Right? So right now we're going to talk about a high bar load with the bar. So he's going to get underneath the bar, and he pinches his shoulder blades back, and he rests the bar just above those shoulder blades. Okay? He stands up. He's going to step back from the rack. He turns his feet out slightly, which is about a 30-degree angle. If you think about anatomical position, naturally your feet are turned out slightly, so that's the position he's going to have. His feet are slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Right? He's going to sit all the way down past parallel. His chest is going to stay up. His back is going to stay flat. And he's going to stand up, and his hips are going to come forward. So essentially when you do a squat, his hips come back. He sits back and down. He'll stay flat on the floor. And then he stands back up, and his hips come forward. Once he's done, he just steps forward and racks the bar. In addition to the positioning of the bar, there's also a low bar technique that you can use. This is generally used amongst power lifters because the way you come up in a squat when you power lift is a little bit more efficient to get more weight up, but it's harder on your low back, and that's why we avoid low bar squatting with our athletes. So if you notice at first he takes a high bar position. A low bar position would be right at the shoulder blades where he's tilted forward a little bit. Always when he squats though, his hands are sort of tight because his elbows are pinched back. It keeps his back flat. So he stands up, spreads his feet out just like he would a low bar squat. He's going to sit down into a squat, but he picks his hips up first a little bit as he stands up, and then he comes forward. Right? So he goes down, his hips come up a little bit, and then he comes forward. Right? And then he steps forward. So there's a breathing technique when you squat. What I have my athletes do is actually hold their breath through the movement. That keeps him with an intra-abdominal pressure that will support his spine as he goes down and up through the movement. So I have my athlete take a deep breath in. He would do a squatting movement. He would hold his breath through the whole movement. He'd stand up, he'd breathe out at the top, and then repeat with the breath in, hold his breath, and then repeat the movement. Again, that actually supports his spine as he goes down and up. So when you start off as a beginner with squatting or any movement, you want to keep it low volume, meaning you don't need a lot of repetition or even sets. You really want to focus on perfecting the technique before you add any type of intensity or weight. So it might take somebody as little as 3 weeks or as much as 6 weeks to actually master the actual perfected squatting technique. This is a presentation of Stevens Fitness Center. Thank you for watching.